Hey, what's up? Ken from Palm Beach Dyno here. Welcome to the latest episode of the Hit the Brakes podcast, where we sit down with high performance people and have long conversations. Our next guest has been a huge resource to the Ford Lightning and Coyote community. Please welcome CNC Mastermind, Joel Charles. All right, Joel, welcome to the podcast. I really appreciate you coming in for this. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome. You got the shirt on there, JC Customs. Obviously, a lot of people online know you from the machining world.
Yep.
And we'll get into that real soon. But we always like to start out with how you got into this business. What's your background when it comes to performance and, performance type work?
Right. So I have been around racing my entire life since I was shitting in diapers, right? We grew up in Kansas, and there's a lot of dirt track racing out there. So it's just always been real competitive. Me and my brothers got into racing real early and started racing professionally, actually, fairly early on. A few championships under our belts.
How'd you get into that? Was that like a family thing?
Oh, yeah. So my dad actually had an engine machine shop.
So you're a second generation machinist then?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So my dad had an engine machine shop. Unfortunately, it closed down. It didn't work out. But up until then, since I was a baby to high school, it was just nothing but racing, circle tracks, dirt tracks, sprint cars, modifieds, all that stuff. And he was building engines for everybody local.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So when we got into racing, go-karts and stuff, we would see like machined out parts. And one day I was just like, yo, like, what is this? Like, what is, and my uncle actually showed me a video. It was right when the internet first came out. That's how old I am. And he showed me a video. He's like, yeah, this is machining. Like, this is what it is, called CNC. And ever since that day, I was hooked. I was like 14 years old at that point.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was like 14, and then that's all I could think about was machining, and I like how to make things go faster. And I was looking at wheels and like the creativity behind it. And then started getting into the performance side of it, like making carburetors and spacers and seeing what different things did. And that's kind of how I developed the performance side of it. But growing up, I realized that it's only going to take me so far. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to become like the best machinist that I could possibly can. Mm-hmm. And like, what's the top tier? And that's like aerospace and medical manufacturing.
Yep.
So straight out of high school, I went to Palm Beach State. They had a machining program there. And then I worked at a job shop, I guess you could call it, during the day. Mm-hmm. So I went to school at night.
How'd you wind up? Is that how you wound up in Florida?
Yeah, actually my dad's business went down, didn't make it. So he moved everybody to Florida.
Okay.
I don't really know the whole details around because I was still a kid at the time. Like what led him to come to Florida, actually, I have no idea.
Is this the area you came to right off the bat?
Actually, it was Cape Coral.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I finished out high school over there. And then straight after high school, I was like, well, I want to learn more about this CNC stuff. And no one knew what I was ever talking about.
Now, before you got to that point, were you doing anything at all? Like even playing with a mill or a lathe or any of that stuff?
Yeah. There's a few Bridgeports. I remember when we moved down here, my dad was working at an engine machine shop also. I think it was Fort Myers Automotive, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. And I was working there, helping him out, doing crank grinding and, honing rods, breaking down motors. Like, I was kind of the grunt. All the work that nobody wanted to do, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, but at that age, that's probably some pretty good experience that most people don't get. It
was fantastic experience. Yeah, there's a lot of Chevy stuff, a lot of small block carburetor stuff, and diesels, like straight sticks and Caterpillars and stuff for the semi trucks. Like, that's most of the business that he was doing down here.
Yeah,
and kind of fast forward to. So it's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be an engine machinist.
Right.
I wanted to be a CNC machinist. I wanted to make cool stuff. I wanted to like
just whatever is challenging.
Because I have a really creative mind. Mm-hmm. So I just like, if I think it, I just want to be able to make it. Like, that was my whole thing.
So that program you said it was at Palm Beach
State Community College at the time.
And like looking back at that, do you think that's a good path for somebody to take that's wanting to get into the machinist world, like a college program? I don't know much about what's the common machinist route,
So the common machinist route is you get a job and you learn from the people at work that you work with, right? You don't go to school. There are a lot more options nowadays, but back in those days that when I was trying to learn, there wasn't many options. And that came with its own set of challenges. Like, you're only as good as a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So went to the machining school, and looking back now, it's funny. I have a lot, I guess there's a lot that went into it now that I'm thinking about it. But there was daytime school and nighttime school. The daytime teacher versus the nighttime teacher, I mean,
totally different.
Totally different.
Well, and I have no idea. I'm assuming the daytime teacher was better. Or
yeah. So he was from Pratt Whitney.
Okay.
And our teacher, I forget where he worked, but he was smart in his own way, but just kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say too much, anything bad about him in case he's listening, but I learned more at work than I did at school.
Right.
So like you would learn, I don't know, like that's just the best I can explain it. You're just as good as a teacher. Mm-hmm. So, but nowadays, and actually when I graduated, me and another kid that graduated at the top of our class, they actually asked us to be the teachers for the next year. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait a second. You want me to be the teacher for the next class coming in after I did my 2 years? And I'm like, I still don't know anything. Right. Like, I know the basic principles, but I'm in no position to teach anybody. That's just kind of where the program was at the time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't take the job, but the other kid did. Mm-hmm. And as far as I know, he did all right with the kids that were there and pumping out hopefully semi-skilled people. Yeah. I think now it's, you're fast forwarding 20 something years. Mm-hmm. It's a lot better now.
Do you feel, can you extract any value there? Like I like to relate things to, my own experiences, obviously. And I went to school for video production, and my initial 5 or 10 years out of school, I was like, that was stupid. I didn't need any of that. Yeah. But then the older I got, the more I realized there was actually some really important things I learned. Maybe it wasn't worth the time and money that I spent, but things like the more deeper stuff that you learn out of school, as opposed to, just somebody showing you, like color theory and composition of how the frame is composed in video. Yeah. So can you draw any parallels there on the machining, or was it just kind of not that great to be all together?
It just, in my experience, it just wasn't that great. It was kind of a waste of time. I was just there to get the certification at the end of the day.
Do you think it helped you get a job?
To a certain degree.
Yeah.
The people that were interviewing me, they're like when I went to interview for the medical, they're like, okay, so you did that. Great. They all know it's kind of like whatever.
Yeah, they know what you're coming from.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well, we do things our own way. So, I mean, to a degree, I guess it did. Looking back, my experience, I probably wouldn't do it again. Mm-hmm. But if I was a kid growing up nowadays, I feel like it would be a little bit more beneficial because they have a little bit better curriculum and standard nowadays. So
let me ask you this part, because I don't really know. Obviously, there's two, we're going to jump around a little bit. This is kind of jumping to your more current work environment, which is not just machining. Yeah. You're designing.
Yeah.
Right? Is that, in general, do most machinists do CAD work, or are they just hardcore running the machines?
It's usually one or the other. You're usually a designer or you're a machinist.
Right. So in your case, did you do any design work at college, or did that all come later?
No, that all came later. I'm more self-taught designer, I guess.
Yep.
So that's just came from messing around. We had...
But being self-taught, in your case, is a little bit easier because you know where you need to end up. Because you already understand. Like me, when I taught myself CAD, I only know how to design for 3D printing, not for machining, because I'm not a machinist and I don't have any experience doing that. And over time, you learn those things, but you already knew like what the final part needed to look like for you to machine it. So I guess that probably helped a little bit on the design side.
100%. So actually, I like the way I did it. I became a machinist first and then a designer second. And it actually made me a better designer, learning how parts are actually made. So from that perspective, I feel like I became a better designer.
So you said your first job was in medical?
Yeah. So did a few mom and pop shops, learned the ropes of machining, the basics. And then I was like, all right, I went high in the company super fast, kind of tapped out. And there was just no more room to grow other than owning the business. So I decided, let's get into medical. Like, there was a pretty, it's called 3D machining back in the day. They've since sold, but they were top of the nation as far as making medical components, titanium, all kinds of crazy
this is
stuff.
all like stuff that they install into patients, or tools, or both, or just whatever, anything really.
So bone drills, screws, plates, if you get busted up, I was making all that stuff, all the tools for the doctors and all that stuff. But it was so technical. I feel like it's more technical. There's a big debate, between medical and aerospace, who's more technical. I've done both, and medical blows aerospace out of the water.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have guessed the total opposite.
Yeah. You have bigger parts in aerospace, which is more challenging, but when you're getting down to stuff that's, the size of your palm or smaller, and you're still holding tense, even sometimes tighter than that tolerances, and everything's in a controlled environment, it gets crazy. Super crazy. And the fixturing is where it's all at. So
when you're doing medical and aerospace, obviously right now you're working for other people. Yeah. How does that work? The businesses have to be certified for that, right?
Yeah.
So, but how about the people? Do you have to get a special certification to work at those places, or basically it's like a plumber, you're working under their license?
You're working under what they got.
So it's ultimately they're responsible, and then they have to make sure you know what you're doing. But there's not like a specific machinist type thing. Just the business is certified, but not the people, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, you don't technically have to have any certification to make the parts, as long as you're making good parts.
But the companies might require that.
Yeah, the companies are required to hold their licenses and keep all that stuff.
No, but I mean so like a medical company, when they contract a machine shop, the business has to be certified to make it
medical parts
legal, because otherwise, just like anything else.
There's all kinds of standards you have to hold yourself to. It's a lot of just paperwork bullshit. So, I mean, that's basically all it boils down to.
Is that why that stuff's so much more expensive?
Yeah.
For the most part. Obviously,
And it's tax-free.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you make medical parts, it's all tax-free.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Medical manufacturing.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah. Whenever I hear something's tax-free, I'm like,
yeah.
And how can I get into it? No,
I actually just learned that it was tax-free. I was like, oh, really? I had no idea.
That's awesome. So, so you said you worked for a couple mom and pop shops, and then you went to work for the bigger place.
Yep.
And then what's the progression there? Do you ever get tired of a certain type of thing?
I get bored very easily. So I actually jumped the ranks fairly quick, and everybody's always like, how you're young, you don't know anything, you're too young to know. And I'm like, all I did was eat, sleep, and breathe machining. Like, I just wanted to know everything there was to know, because I knew I was going to own my own shop.
Right.
And more than likely I'd probably be a one-man show. So I wanted to learn everything I knew, everything I could, because if the problem arises, I'm the one that has to figure it out. I don't want to rely on anybody. So I was real fortunate enough that this guy, Glenn, he took me under his wing and just showed me everything there is to know about technical machining and milling and 5-axis, multi-axis, simultaneous cutting. And he really shaped me to what I am today, to be able to produce the parts that I am producing today.
And that's at that bigger company you were talking about?
Yeah, it's all the medical place. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to Glenn.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, most successful people have at least one person like that in their story that, you want to make sure you give them credit every single time, because, and hopefully someday you could be the Glenn to some guy, and that's our jobs as we get to be old men. That's pass it on,
Yeah, that's the other challenge I face now, man, is trying to find help. I've had like 6 guys and none of them worked out.
Yeah. So you're on your own right now?
Yeah, it's just me and my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the tough part. I mean, here at Palm Beach, we have people that work here, and everybody that's here is great. Very, very good. But it's been very challenging getting to this point, you know?
Actually, I thought I would be further along now than I am actually.
Yeah.
I thought I'm 11 years in now. On my own, and I thought I'd be at least 5 to 10 employees by now.
Yeah, but be careful what you wish for, man.
I know. Everybody keeps telling me that.
Yeah, we're recovering from like an overgrowth spurt myself, where we had 16 people here at one point.
Wow, that's crazy.
And I had more buildings than I have now, and it just got to the point where my life was kind of miserable and it was just hard to manage, and downside. I wouldn't say we downsized. We just got more efficient with everything, and it's been a lot better that way. So, at some point, obviously you don't want to be the one doing all the work all the time, but you also have a lot of flexibility and latitude when you're the one making all the decisions, and you don't have to worry about a big job getting messed up or stuff coming back. So from that medical place, have you ever worked in aerospace at all?
Yeah. So I left there. I actually went through the ranks fairly quick there and became the manager of the milling department, and just kind of flatlined there. Didn't really have anywhere else to go other than, becoming like a plant manager or something. So startup.
How big of a company is something like that?
They were pretty big. In my eyes, they were pretty big. They had a couple hundred employees.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty big.
So after that place, I went on to a startup aerospace company. They were a little bit of a mix of both aerospace and medical, but more aerospace stuff. And that's where I was running a Chiron FZ12KS, and it's a mill turn. Mm-hmm. Dude, this thing was badass. It like the bar capacity was 3 inches, but I could do anything I wanted. Like, you had total freedom to machine everything at one time. Usually, you machine something, you got to flip it over, you got to cut it off and hold it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But this machine, you could, like, I was making super sophisticated parts all in one operation, 9-axis simultaneous. Mm. It was nuts. We were the only one in Florida with the machine.
Oh, okay.
No one knew how to run it at the time. So
And what's that called?
It's called a Chiron.
Okay.
FZ12KS. A lot of machinists, if they look it up, they'll recognize it right off the bat. But the head articulates down. You can do front work, turning work, and then it had a back jaw that would come and grab the part. And dude, it was like, I want one. I would want another one for my own shop.
So that's obviously a big money.
Big money. That's a $500,000 machine.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
The thing was badass though.
So how did you like the aerospace thing?
I did not like it at all.
No?
No. The tolerances were dumb. Nothing made sense.
And that's, so basically,
I don't know if it was just the work we were doing or getting, but I'm like, wow, this sucks. This is into the alloys you have to work on are super hard on the machines. You're using ceramic inserts on some stuff, and it's just like, wow, this sucks. Right. I'd rather make something cool.
So you didn't stay there too long?
No, they actually ended up shutting down. They had bad management, and they didn't last very long. I think a year or two. And then after that, I started my own shop shortly after that.
That's awesome. And that's, that's what became JC Customs right at that point, or not right away?
It was a little bit after that. So let me think. Now you're making me dig into my memory bank. So, so after that, I actually got, so like my whole goal, I was like making $70,000 at this place. And my whole goal was to make 6 digits before I was 30 years old. Like, that was just a goal I had in my life. So actually happened. I got a job up in South Carolina, Charleston, $100,000. You're a programmer, aerospace parts. I'm like, no problem. So I move up there, and we're staying in a hotel, and I have all my stuff in my truck. I had a red F-350 at the time, had all my machinist tools in it, all my personal tools for, like, I had a car I was working on at the time, or a truck, and had everything with me, a little trailer. 2 weeks into working at this job, I go out the next morning, everything's gone. I got stolen.
Oh my God.
So yeah, everything I had, like, just my truck, everything. I'm like, I could not. And I thought, I'm going to move in South Carolina, Southern hospitality. It should be good. Charleston sounds cool. No, everything got stolen. Everything I had got stolen. So I load up my wife and my dog into a U-Haul. I said, fuck this place. Let's go back home. And thank goodness we didn't sell our house at that point in time. So we came back home. We still had a house. I got a job at it was a real quick in between that and owning my own shop. It was the last place I ever worked at, building equipment, like automation equipment. They didn't have a machine shop, so I started it from the ground up. Me and my buddy Alex, he ended up working there with me and bringing parts in-house because they were outsourcing everything. So helped them get their machine shop up and running. Then I wasn't there, but a few months. And I'm like, I'm ready to start my own thing. Let's do this.
So now up to this point, you working professionally as a machinist. Were you starting down the path of any kind of design work, or you hadn't really touched that yet?
It was off and on. Like it was just more designing fixtures, I guess, is how I could get my feet wet for the parts that I'd have to make.
Right.
But up until then, not really. No, it started once I hit my business. So like I had to design
That's
everything.
when you had to really do it. So we'll make a little turn towards the design stuff a little bit more, because that's interesting to me, because like I said, I recently started teaching myself a little bit here, mostly for the 3D printing side. But at that time, the internet wasn't quite what it is today.
Right.
For me, it was very easy to learn. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty good learner, but the material's there.
Yeah.
You find 2 or 3 people on YouTube that seem trustworthy and like, these guys know what they're talking about. And I just did everything they said, and it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But, before the days of the internet, things were not that easy.
Actually, the designer in the family is my brother. Yeah, he's an amazing designer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He stayed on the
So what was his path from where you
similar
went
to mine, except he stayed with the medical field.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
he's in Florida still?
Yeah, he's in Naples working at Arthrex. Dude, he's like everybody that has a knee replacement, it's his design.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So he concentrates more on the design side?
Yeah, he's a straight engineer.
Okay.
Straight up baller, dude. Like the valve
So he
covers
went
that
to
I have.
went to school to be an engineer, or?
Actually went to school to be a machinist, and then he didn't like the machining aspect. He loved the designing aspect of it, where I was more geared towards the machining side of it, but I would dabble with the design of it. He's just killing it. He helped me with the designs on my Coyote covers.
Very
on
cool.
both of them. Yeah. He's on another planet.
Really?
Yeah. He kicks my ass out of the park.
Well, but that's good, because then you can absorb some of that from him, and it's your brother. So
yeah,
you're allowed to steal his ideas.
yeah. I'm trying to get him into the game, dude. I'm like, dude, you need to get in the automotive game. There's nobody with your mindset. You just see things differently. Like, it's just not cut and dry. Like, I wish he would design an intake. Like, it'd be like so badass. I know it would be. Yeah. He's like, oh, I don't know, whatever. He just does it on his own time too.
Is he just kind of just too happy really to go off in another direction right now?
I don't know.
Sometimes.
I think it's his job security. He's got kids and stuff. So
yeah, I
think it's the job security is what he likes to have. But he does it like, dude, what he can do in like a day, it takes me like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's where, not that you're not talented, but that's where talent comes in. And he's focused on design. Certain things are, people are just really good at naturally. Like you said, he just sees things differently. But some of that happens just from repetitive work, right?
Yeah.
Like if all you were doing was design every day,
yeah,
you have the same DNA roughly.
Yeah.
You're probably in the same position. You're just a little bit pulled in every direction.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to run a business, set your pricing,
it's
making
always
sure
a struggle for me.
Yeah. It's
the biggest struggle I have is always making the design. So now I just sub everybody off to a buddy that I have, Pavel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does 3D scanning and stuff and can do the design. So I'm like, hey, if you have something, I just don't have the damn time.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't understand how long design takes, because
time consuming.
It's way more than just, getting the dimensions, what you need, because you have to decide, especially in machining, because you have to decide, is this actually machinable on the machines I have?
Yeah.
Right. Because there's just limitations to every machine practically.
Yeah.
So you have to, people have said that to me, like, oh, well, you know how to design. I'm like, I design stuff for 3D printing.
Yeah.
And then if I want to make a part out of that, I would give it to you and be like, all right, scrap this, but instead of me describing
the idea.
This is a 3D model, but it's not, you're going to have to
not exactly what I want.
Yeah. Or, even if it is, it's probably not going to work to machine it exactly.
I don't know. Everything you've sent me so far has been pretty dead nuts.
Yeah, it's been pretty simple stuff though.
Yeah, if there's a change, it's usually not too crazy.
Yeah, on simple stuff, I feel like I'm okay, but like an intake manifold like that, I'd have no idea how to properly do that in CAD. Yeah. Like not even close. I could probably get something that looks like that, but it wouldn't be right.
So
for sure.
like something like that, if you look at it, take your bolt pattern, right? You know where your head bolt pattern is.
Yep.
And then as long as you know where your bolt pattern is, you can just build off that.
Right.
That's what somebody told me. Like, figure out where your bolt patterns are, and just, if you have a certain height, certain whatever, lay all that out rough, and then just start building around it.
Right.
Just like you would build a motorcycle, right? You'd have your motor, and then you're building the chassis around it. Yeah. It's a similar idea.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing that quite a bit, almost as much as tuning and video, because I just like,
dude, I want to make an intake so bad.
I like making something that just doesn't exist out of nothing, right? I've got some really cool ideas for intakes that we'll talk about off camera, but I got quite a few really good ideas, I think. But the problem is, you know, I've talked to people about it, and they're like, you should do it. I go, dude, ideas are ideas.
Yeah.
You don't, just because it seems like a good idea doesn't mean you're going to sell enough of it, that you're going to recover all the time and effort and all the iterations that you have to do to get to that point.
Yeah.
I go, it's tough. If I had endless time, sure, I make all kinds of stuff. But, you know, as I get older, I'm like, you know, TikTok has so much time left, you know, so, you know, it's hard to really decide where to put your time. So you went straight off into your business. I actually forget where you were when we first met. The place you're at now.
No, I wasn't there. I was in working out of my house in Wellington.
Ah, that's right. It was out in Wellington.
Yeah.
That's right.
Out by the high school over there.
Yeah, but you got a really cool setup now.
Yeah.
I think that, you know.
It's like a little farm.
Yeah, exactly. And you got, you know, it's not the biggest place in the world, but you've used every square inch of that place. It's set up really nice, efficiently.
I never know what I'm doing in there. It's nuts to butts with machines. So it's like the newest machine that I just got, the VF3. So I had my lift in there. I'm like, oh, I have the machines on the back wall. I can bring my car or truck in here, and I'll just start making parts for it. It's badass. So I was like having a problem with the length of my table. I'm like, I need a bigger machine, but I didn't want to get rid of the other machines I had already because I worked too damn hard to get them. So I was like, get the lift out of here. I'm just going to throw in a machine in the middle of the floor and call it a day. But I wish I could just build on to it, but there's all kinds of red tape with doing stuff like that. So
when you first started on your own place, like, you know, obviously you can't just go buy all these machines.
No.
So like,
and plus I had like zero budget. Like I was still like, I don't know. Everybody's like, oh, he's got money, but I've never had money. Like I came from the bottom, dude, like dirt. Right. My family's never had money. Just no one's ever had money. It's always been paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. And these machines, even used, even maybe older versions, are not cheap. Like
no.
What did you start off with machine wise?
So I had a $10,000 budget, and I bought a machine off eBay. It was a 1992 Haas VF2 in New Hampshire. I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, okay, it was like $7,000 for the machine. And then I forget how much to ship it, and then to rig it on their end. And then I had to rig it on my end, which I did the rigging myself on my end.
What does that mean? Like setting up the level? And
no, like taking it off the trailer with a forklift.
Oh, like just setting it up basically.
Yeah, machine rigging is what they call it.
Okay.
Yeah, moving it, put it on a trailer, transport it, take it off the trailer, set it down. Like that's the rigging.
If you don't do that, I mean, are they fragile? I would assume.
Yeah, you could drop that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So you bought it like you had just off eBay, like you didn't have any way to inspect it.
No, I'm like, well, I'm not flying up there, and there's nothing local to me at the time that had anything that was worth getting. So, and I knew I wanted to go with Haas because parts were easy to get, and I thought I was gonna have a whole bunch of problems with this machine. You know, I'm like, hey, send me a video of it running, some grainy ass ATM video of it running. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm like, cross my fingers, you know, hold both my nuts and jump in the deep end. And that's what I did. And got the machine, did all the rigging myself. I had to take it all apart outside in my driveway. This is a 2-car garage is what I'm trying to shove this thing into. Right. So I had to take that into account. And it wouldn't fit. So I'm taking the whole thing apart in my driveway and finally shove it in the garage, rebuild it all inside, cut a hole in the roof of the garage. And dude, I plugged the machine in and everything worked. Like there wasn't anything wrong with it. It was holding tolerances. Like you take an indicator and go back and forth, see if it repeats. Everything was repeating. I was like, holy shit, this thing's within, a couple tenths.
So now when you're putting that kind of machinery into a house,
Yeah.
what's the big problem?
3-phase power.
Power, right?
Yeah. So actually we live in a crazy time, man. American rotary phase converters. I got one of their phase converters, and dude, it's 220 and pumps out 3-phase power. So it's all 220, 3-phase. So you could run it off your house and had an air compressor, and that's all you need.
Wow, that's awesome. So you've got the Haas. What other kind of complementary machines, like for like the basic starting point, do you need to really do what you were trying to do?
So like a basic lathe and a Bridgeport. That's all I started off with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then
I did all that for under 10 grand.
And then you went right into performance stuff, or were you trying to do anything else?
Well, the first things I actually made were at that time I had a Lightning, Gen 2 Lightning. It was a 99 at the time, or 01, I can't remember now. It was an orange piece of crap one, and bought it on a whim. So I'm like, hey, I'm just going to start making parts for this truck. And I didn't have any social media at the time, barely ever on the internet.
What time frame is this? Do you remember?
So let's see. This is probably around 2013, 12, 13.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So social media is going decently strong at that point. You're just not into it.
I just never had it. Yep. Never been big on the internet, actually, to be honest with you. Didn't really watch much TV. You should be, man.
When you do videos, I find them entertaining.
Oh, thanks. Now I kind of enjoy it. Yeah, I like doing the reels.
Yeah.
If it's a long video, it's like, man, I don't know. This is kind of getting...
Yeah, I was kind of anti-reel, and then I've kind of latched onto it recently. And
I'm better at the reels than I am the long videos.
Yeah, and it's a lot less stressful.
Yeah, because I can do it in one take.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're lip syncing or something to a song or whatever that I try to do, I was just like, one take, done, boom, post.
Yeah. So you basically, you said you had a Lightning. And so like that was, I know you for Lightning stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously I don't do much Lightning. I tune them, but we don't do much work on them. So we've done a lot of Coyote stuff with you, but like what kind of parts were you making? Like dress up stuff or functional parts?
Yeah, start off like dress up stuff, oil caps, stupid stuff like that. And then door handles, and then basically whatever. I got on social media at that time too, Facebook, and then joined a few Lightning groups and just kind of asked everybody like, what do you want? Like this is what I have. I'm trying to start a machine shop. I'm making my own products, and I'm not going to go back and work for somebody at this point. Like, this is all I'm doing, like 24/7. Like, what do you guys want? And then it got into the performance stuff, like the mid plates. There's always a big challenge. And I remember distinctly that Frenchie's truck.
The mid plate, that's from the intake to the blower you're talking about?
Yeah. That holds the intercooler on.
Yeah. You're pretty known for that one on the Lightning, I think, right?
Yeah. We actually set a whole bunch of records with them, man. It's just a straight bolt on too. It's crazy, like how much the blowers are being choked out. We set records with everything. Frenchie's truck at the time is a 2.3. We had it here. Like he was trying to break into the 9s. We bolted plate up. You did a few dyno test hits and then took it out to the track, and he hit it. Yeah, man. Like that's what his whole goal was, and throwing all these parts at it. And there's this big ass intercooler, trick intercooler on the market. And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the mid plate, the casting, and I'm like, dude, there's a lot of real estate that's being left on the table. Like, open this thing up.
Right.
And a little bit better flow design on how the air is coming out, which it's being forced in, so you can only do so much. Right. But we made those few changes, and dude, just everything's been a rocket ship since.
I think that's one thing a lot of people overlook, which you didn't, which is just because it's boosted doesn't mean that a smooth airflow isn't beneficial, especially as you go up and boost.
No,
because you turn into getting into turbulence, and then you can sometimes get to a point where it won't pick up any more power because there's so much air trying to go through that spot. It's pissed.
And the Lightnings have kind of a stupid design in my opinion with the turkey pan, the bowl, because the air's got to go through the intercooler down and then back up to the runners. Yeah,
Cobras and GT500s are that way too.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for that design. If it was more direct, you'd have a lot more efficiency, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, the newer upside down blowers pretty much addressed that, gave it a little bit of runner length, and much, much better. So on the Lightning stuff, that's a good topic because, man, I see it's crazy to me how at least seems like that market is still
Dude,
there.
it's thriving, man.
You know, we've got a customer of ours that specializes in lightnings. His name's Garrett.
Yeah,
we do
Garrett,
some tuning.
he's
for
doing
him.
my truck.
Yeah. I thought you guys knew each other. And, you know, Kobe asked me something about it. And I said to him, I go, man, is that market still worth focusing on? He's like, dude like he's busy,
hot.
you know? Yeah. Well, and they're badass trucks. They really are. I mean, you know, I've never owned one, unfortunately. I've never owned one of those or a Cobra, but I've tuned a ton of them and driven a ton of them. And I would love to have one today.
Yeah.
Problem is getting one that's probably nice at this point.
Actually,
that somebody
you'd be
wants
surprised.
to sell.
You'd be surprised. There's
Yeah.
more nice ones than there are shitty ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think people in general, like, gave them a little bit of extra respect, you know, at the time when you have it, it's valuable, but now looking back at it, and it's like even more valuable, right?
Yeah.
Like, when's the last time Ford has released a supercharged truck?
I don't even know.
The Raptor R
Yeah, the Raptor, and
is
that's
the
about
new
it.
one, but then there wasn't one before. I don't
No.
think, not counting the, you know, dealer bolt-on ones. That doesn't count.
No, that doesn't
like
count.
a real one that, like a GT500, but a truck
factory
or a
one.
Cobra. Yeah.
Yeah.
There hasn't been one.
No.
Since, when did the Lightning end? 2002?
4. Yeah.
Wow.
99 to
That's way
04.
off. You know, so, you know, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since they've done that. So
They dropped the ball on that, man. They should have kept it going. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
like the 2012 truck, that's a badass truck. That should have been Gen 3 Lightning.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There's still a huge market for 'em, man. Even the community around it on Facebook is
that's why I
strong,
see
dude.
it a lot, because I'm in the Lightning group on Facebook, and it's
And
like
Garrett, he's killing it, man.
Yeah.
He's like the go-to guy now in the whole entire country.
Oh, really?
It's only a handful of guys that know these trucks, and he's one of them. Like top 5 for sure.
Yeah, and that's what people don't realize in the performance world. Like, we tend to focus on the newest of the new.
Right.
You know, people ask me like, "What are you gonna do about tuning?" I said, "Dude, there's people that specialize in Fox bodies.
Yeah.
They haven't been made forever.
Yeah.
30 years. So if today it was like, can't tune anything new forever for the rest of, you know, time, I'm still gonna be busy.
Exactly.
You know, there's millions of cars out there that we can tune.
Yeah.
So the guy that might have went and bought a new Mustang is going to go, well, I want to modify it. So I won't buy that. I'll go buy a used one and modify it. So I'm not that worried about it.
That's same with me in my business, man. I'll always be busy with old cars, old trucks.
Yeah. And
it's rarely anything new I make, except for the Gen 3 Coyote billet valve covers. Like, really, I don't touch anything that's that new.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the Coyote world in general. You make quite a bit of parts for those, I'd say. You know?
Yeah.
One thing I have a set for my car, for my red car, the billet valve covers, which to me, yours are far and away the baddest ones out there.
Thanks.
You know, and I like how, you know, you offer a lot of little different tweaks if you need them, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to delete VCT,
Yep.
you just don't machine that out. It's like, and you know, that, I guess that's really what I want to bring up is dealing with somebody like you is a very unique experience. I'm sure there's other people like you out there, but you're the one in our market, Ford, that really the only guy I could think of that is gonna give that level of detail and I guess I'd call it customer service or like, you know, you're very focused on making the person happy, right? Like if I said to you, hey, Joel, can you do this? Of course I could do that. Like, it's not like, oh, dude, I don't want to do that. I don't have time. You know, if I just do that one part for you, I need to sell 100 more or else I'm not doing it. You know, you don't really run into that with you. No. And obviously you can't accommodate every request.
No.
But you're the guy that really wants to get things done, where a lot of the other companies that do this are the guys that are the bigger companies that have lost sight of that connection with their customer. So that's
I'm real big on customer service.
Yeah. And that's the huge benefit of staying smaller, because everybody that deals with JC Customs is dealing with you.
Yep.
So that's something you never want to get rid of. Even as you grow, you want to keep that connection with people. And I learned that myself on our side of the business as we grew. I made some wrong turns there. And now I'm back to dealing with everybody that I possibly can, because I realized one thing: I love my customers.
Yeah.
Right. That's why
you're in business.
That's why I have this business.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be connected to the customer and see them being happy.
Yeah.
You know, so and that's something that you haven't lost at all. And you seem to,
No.
and you know, what you post on Facebook and what you portray isn't real life, but you always portray a positive attitude, and you're
100%.
you're super happy all the time in your videos. And like, even when I watch a video, I sometimes don't even know what it is, and you're just smiling. I'm like, hey, that's Joel. Like, it just makes me happy to see it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good feature that, you know, not everybody is lucky enough to have. A little bit of personality, a lot of humor, and just like not taking yourself too seriously, even though, you know, based on the conversation we've already had, you have a killer background to do this. Other people in your same exact position would have gotten one job at a machine shop, never had, you know, I know the college part maybe wasn't that critical, but you learned some there, and it was a good starting point probably. But, you know, all the steps throughout, you know, I didn't even know all those steps until you told me now. And it makes more sense as to, like, I've never asked you to do something and you're like, I don't know if I could do that.
No, that's been my whole thing.
I've never heard that from you ever, you know, and that's why, because you've done way more complicated shit that's, you know, with tighter tolerances and more demands and stuff you don't even want to do necessarily. But whereas, you know, I would say most of the performance shit you do, you probably, you know, I'm sure at a certain point making oil caps isn't fun anymore, but like you're always doing new things that, like Gen 3 valve covers, right?
I have to challenge myself. Yeah.
So how do you determine like what the next step is, like product wise? Do you go off what customers ask for, or are you looking at your own, like let's talk about some personal projects you have.
Which one?
Well, and I'm not sure, you know, we don't talk that often. I was at your place, well, I don't know, a few months ago.
But it's always constantly changing.
I know you said you had a Gen 2 Lightning.
Yep.
What do you have one now too? New, not the same one, but
so I still have the black
one, right?
Yeah, Black Nasty. That's Black Nasty 2.0 now. So I've been making everything for that. Basically, if like on that truck, if I see it and I'm like, oh shit, that should be a billet, I'm making it. Like,
I mean, you do all kinds of stuff like door handles, like inside door handles.
A lot of accessories. Right now I'm focusing more on the performance side because the truck's finally getting built and I want a badass motor. So I got all my stuff on there that I currently offer, like the pulley bridge and mid plate and all that. I'm doing a GT500 2.9 swap.
Okay.
And there's a lot of room for improvement on a lot of things. So I'm making, between me and Garrett, actually Garrett has been, you know, getting me amped up to make more cool stuff for it. He's got a lot of cool stuff coming out that I can't wait to show everybody, but I'll keep it on the DL for now. But he's killing it with the product design and development. I'm like, oh yeah, this is what gets me excited, you know, the bouncing back and forth and being like, oh yeah, man, like duh, like how come nobody's seen this before? It's been, you know, 20 something odd years, but that sort of mindset is what gets me excited. But like forever I've been wanting to do the timing cover. Like it'd just be badass to do a timing cover just because I have the valve covers, and then you're looking at the shitty casting on the front and it's like, oh man, that should be billet. So
you are doing a timing cover?
Yeah.
For the Lightning?
Yeah.
Are you going to do other ones, you think, or?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people ask me for that in particular. I think maybe somebody else might make one, but nobody wants to buy it from them. I forget who it was.
For a Lightning?
Not for a Lightning.
Oh, for like Coyote probably.
Like a MMR or something like that. Yeah. But so you've got the Lightning, so that's going to be a 2.9, still 5.4 2 valve?
5.4 2 valve, yeah. Keep it true to its foundation.
And what kind of, do you have any kind of power goal? Or are you building it like mostly just as a street truck? Or you going to take it to the track? Or what do you think?
Probably a high-end street truck is what I classify it as.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly that, like drag racing is fun, but it doesn't really get me going. I like more street racing.
Yeah.
Or dirt track racing. That's what gets me going.
Yeah. See, that's something I had no idea that you had that background in.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't have any, I think actually that was probably my first taste of performance. My brother-in-law took me to a dirt race in Jersey. We were from New York and we went to Jersey, and
a lot of good racing up there.
Yeah. And I can't remember what kind of car he had, but it was something fast.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it was like an old Monte Carlo, but he had stuff, something. I mean, by today's standards, it probably wasn't fast, but I was driving around in my dad's Ford Tempo before that. So, and on the way back, he got into it, and we probably went like 100 or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, it's crazy. But that was like my only exposure to dirt track racing. Is that something that's even, I know like over in the Tampa area, it's pretty popular. I know a couple of my customers do that over there in different areas, but what's the closest dirt track to us?
Actually, Hendry County. It's the southernmost dirt track in the United States.
Is that
St. Lewiston? In between.
We just did the sheriff's truck for that.
Yeah. Oh, did you?
Did you see that video I posted?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his truck.
That was for Hendry County?
I'm pretty sure. Is that the one? If that's just like south of Okeechobee?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
Oh, okay.
I'm almost positive.
There's Moorhaven and Clewiston over there.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll see it around.
So it's a supercharged F-150.
Oh, shit.
It's got a Roush though, so, it's a little handicapped. It's not a Whipple.
Yeah.
So, you started with the Lightning stuff. How did you get, because you've never had a Coyote vehicle yourself, right?
No.
So how did you
just everybody asking me to do it?
Yeah. And that's another important point. Obviously you do a lot of JC Custom specific parts, but you work with other companies. Like you did pulley, like back in the day. Yeah, we've done pulleys. We did a bunch of pulleys for TVS blowers. We've done all kinds of random products together. Yeah. So
you had your tensioner there for a while too. I don't know if that's still hitting off.
Yeah. Yeah. The alternator bracket thing.
Yeah, the alternator bracket.
Yeah, I've had we ran out of those. I wasn't sure. It's always hard to gauge the market. It's like, do I get another round of those made or not? And I've had a lot of requests for them lately. We ran out recently, and I had some people request it.
That's weird. I haven't seen a PO for them.
Yeah. So but the point is you make parts. So you have probably like your coil covers. Yeah. Right. So anybody can call you up directly and order those, but somebody like us, we can get Palm Beach Dyno ones with our logo on it or whatever. Yep. And that's, you're customizing pretty much everything that you make, or everything is customizable. Somebody can order oil 100%. Caps for you, all that stuff. Yeah. But when somebody comes to you with an idea, do you usually leave that with the company as far as like not selling it direct, or how does that work?
Yeah. So, yeah, 100%. So if I guess there's a few companies I can't talk about unfortunately now, but for NDA. But if a company that sells aftermarket parts is coming to me to produce them, that's 100% your product. I don't care two craps about selling it myself or stealing it, because I've had it happen to me. Like somebody's stolen quite a few of my products and tried to recreate them. And I used to get really pissed off, and I'd be like, all right, here's my product and here's their product that they're putting out that's trying to be the same, but it's just not the same and the quality's not there. And I'm just like, actually I win. Right. So I'm not even that pissed off anymore. And then somebody said, oh, you should be flattered. And I'm like, well, not really when it's my livelihood. It's like kind of a kick in the dick. Like, dude, like find something else.
Yeah, well, that's something I wanted to bring up with
you. And that's why I don't do it to other companies. Like, it's your product. Right. You're bringing me a solid model and a print. It's your product 100%. If I have to make fixtures and do all that, those are your fixtures. If you want to take all that shit and go have it made somewhere else, it's yours.
And then even if they need you to actually do some of the design work, they pay for it, but it's still their design.
It's their design, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's the way it should be, but it's a lot of the times it's not that way.
Yeah, I have to be fair, man, because it just, what goes around comes around. Yeah. I don't want to be I don't want to be like that. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I was.
Yeah. And
be like, oh man, I screwed this guy. There's no way he's but which I could very easily, but I'm just not that guy.
And then the big way this can happen is overseas stuff. And I wanted to bring that up with you because that's probably a major component you have to worry about is, I'd say at a certain level, you're fine as far as volume, but you make something too popular. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it winds up copied. Have you had that happen over any kind of overseas copying of your stuff? Or have you been pretty lucky so far?
I haven't seen any of it. If it is, I'm unaware of it.
Yeah. 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 And that's probably because you're staying a little niche on your stuff. But I don't know if you saw that Summit Racing deal on that valve body deal.
Speedmaster.
Yeah. And that's something that's probably a fairly high volume part.
Yeah. I'm not at that level, I don't think.
No. But, You may not think so, but then all of a sudden, billet valve covers show up on Amazon for $500 or something like that.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when it comes, that's another important thing to talk about. How much has the recent economy affected your business not so much as far as demand, people needing parts, but you having to raise your prices for material costs, because that's affecting, if it's McDonald's or you or whatever, everything's going up. So it's got to hurt you. Are you,
unfortunately,
you just got to raise your prices,
I held out for as long as I could. Like when
I could see you being that guy, like, I'll just absorb it, but you can't do it.
I was taking the hit of it for a while, because I'm like, oh man, there's no way I can pass this on to my customers. And I was taking out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And I waited till the extreme end before I'm like, okay, I can't do it anymore. Like, I have to raise my prices. And even still, it wasn't that big of a jump, I thought.
Right.
Most places were going like 25%. And I was like still at 10, and that's just, I don't know. The last thing I am is greedy or money driven. It's just not in me. I'm more product driven.
Mm-hmm.
So the money, obviously, you need it to survive, but it's not my motivating factor.
And how much goes into like sourcing? Obviously your main source is aluminum.
Yeah.
Right. That's mostly what you work in.
Yeah.
So, how do you source that kind of stuff? Are you like shopping that around? Or
I've done a lot of shopping.
Yeah. There's a pretty big variance, right, on what that stuff can cost sometimes, depending on where you get it.
Yeah. So there's a few companies that I have to deal with, and the cheapest one is Dyson, actually, with the best quality, because you don't want to sacrifice quality either.
Yeah.
So Dyson actually has been clutch coming in with material prices.
So now when you're
they're
talking,
still, significantly high, especially with plate stock, but significantly lower than everybody else.
So when you're talking about quality, like what are some of the things you're looking for there? Is it just basically consistency through the whole piece, and like flaws, or I don't
grade
know.
in the material.
Mm-hmm.
And I like using plate stock because you have,
what is that?
So it's just a big ass plate made, right?
And as opposed to what?
Like an extrusion.
Okay. Gotcha.
So instead of drawn, you have cold drawn or extrusion or plate stock. I actually don't know exactly how plate stock is made, so that's actually a good point.
Yeah.
But there's stress induced in material, right? So as soon as you cut the first layer off, the part, twings and it finds its natural state, whatever it wants to be in. And you do that enough times through different suppliers, because they all have different mill houses and whatever. And you find what you like. And Dyson, actually, with their plate stock, like when all my stuff that's the valve covers and mid plates and all that's all plate stock, and they have it. It's just super high quality Kaiser that I use. So
I guess it's no different than a carpenter finding a place with straight 2x4s versus stuff that's all wiggly. If you're starting with crap, you're going to end up with crap.
Yeah, I don't want polished turds, man. As you're starting off with a good block of material, you're going to end up with a good quality part.
What are some of the downfalls they use in a cheaper material? Surface finish, things like that?
So warpage, surface finish. It doesn't anodize right. A lot of guys want to get black anodize, and I like anodizing rather than powder coating. So there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. And like, you have different, what do they call it? Like 6061 T6, T4, the T. I like the T6. It's just a really good material. So
obviously you don't do your own anodizing, but I've noticed, and a lot of it has to do with where you buy the parts, right? Like some anodizing, black's probably one of the more popular colors for billet parts. Some of them turn purple in like a week. Some last a really long time. Some last forever. Is that the anodizing, or is it some of the material that just doesn't hold on to the anodizing, or what do you think it is?
The material has a little bit to play into it, but it's also the anodizing that turns purple. So my anodizer, actually RTM up in Riviera, his name's Chad. He does a phenomenal job. So he bright dips everything and then will anodize it the color that you want. So it's shiny and holds up to, it's still going to fade with UV exposure. If you hold it out in the sun all day, it's going to fade. It's anodized.
And then there's hard anodizing versus regular anodizing, which the hard anodizing usually is a little duller of a finish.
But holds up.
Yeah.
It does a little bit better with the heat.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I think the pulleys that you made for me, we had hard anodized.
Yeah.
And unless it was just like an extreme belt slip situation for a long period of time, they always held their color.
Yeah.
Which is super important. So, you know, like you said, you started out with a cheap machine, but that's not what you have now.
No.
So you've grown to what do you have in your shop right now?
So yeah, sold that machine to help my buddy start his shop out of his garage, ironically, and then upgraded to early 2000, mid 2000.
So you sold it. He used that machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
At first I thought you meant you sold it and gave him the money. I'm like, why would you do that?
No, he got the machine.
Okay.
And that kind of catapulted me into buying my newer stuff. So
okay.
I have some, mid 2000 Haas machines. I got four mills now and one CNC lathe, and then a whole bunch of support equipment, grinders and manual lathes and tool room lathes and bridge boards. And
you can do fairly large pieces in those?
Yeah. So I have a VF3. So I have 40 inches of travel, 40 by 20 envelope that I can fit parts in, because I want to start making wheels.
Yeah, we've talked about that in the past. I would love to see you do that.
Yeah.
Because
I made one for my Lightning back in the day.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the 3-piece wheels.
So how do you this is one question somebody asked me recently, because we saw a wheel design and I'm like, I don't understand how that's not going to break. So like when you get into something like that, obviously, it's pretty dangerous if a wheel breaks.
Yes.
If a billet part on an engine breaks, that's bad. But if a wheel breaks, it could be a serious deal. So do you do that mostly through engineering ahead of time, or like destructive tests after the fact? I mean, obviously you haven't been doing them, but like what would be the plan for something like that?
So yeah, I'd actually have to get together with somebody that's pretty knowledgeable. I know that a lot of people are all about the forgings. So forge centers, rather than a cut billet piece. So I don't know exactly the science behind it, like what actually is happening, how much stronger it is. So there's a few guys that I want to talk to first before I start getting into my own things. Like the wheels that I made for my truck, that's been years now. They're still on the road. Andrew has it on his truck, and they've held up pretty great. Yeah. But I made them fairly thick. They're like 3/4 thick center.
Right.
I don't know how much thinner I could go. I mean, I would just test it myself, but I would really like to understand why the forgings are desired. I mean, I know that they're stronger, but like how thin can you go versus a cut billet piece? Like all that, I still don't know. Yeah.
So,
because obviously the lighter, the faster, right?
Yeah. And that's always the balance, right? Because the reason I ask is I won't mention the name, but there was a company that was doing drag wheels and they had a couple failures. And it's like, how did that happen? Right? Like you don't ever see a weld wheel fail. I'm sure they can fail, but you don't really just see a car going down the track and the wheel break, but that's what happened. Right. And, obviously Weld's a huge company. So, their lawyers force that case, like, probably like everything has to be tested and checked, but you get into like more of a mid-level type company, stuff like that can sneak out the door. So, that's the problem, and they went out of business because of it.
Right.
They probably are called something else now, but that name of that company went away. So that's always what, comes to mind. But one thing that I thought about when it comes to you're talking about making an entire wheel. Have you thought about, because a lot of and I won't throw anybody under the bus, but one very popular drag racing wheel company out there, they don't even make the barrels, right? You can buy those barrels already done, and they just focus on making the centerpiece that bolts in. Have you thought about starting down that road instead? Yeah, because I think that would be a great way to get into it with less commitment. Yeah, because it's more obvious stuff to make sure it's strong, but you're not making the barrel. Right. So you can concentrate on design and creativity. And that's
the avenue I would go down. I get the barrels and make my own centers.
Yep. Although I would like to see you take that and then go further, like you've seen, I don't have any in here, but we do a lot of forge line wheels. Right. And they're big. They've been around forever before their monoblock line, but their big push, and a lot of people's push, are monoblock wheels. And that's something you're totally capable of doing with the right machinery, but that's probably the next level up. I would guess it gets pretty expensive at that point.
Yeah, actually, that's where I want to go. I want to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
I want to make wheels. I want to get into that whole game. I think I can make a real impact, and plus, I have some pretty good ideas for some, like across the board racing, off road, and dually. Like I want to make some. I have this, dude. I just want to make it so bad. It's these badass dually wheels I want to make. Like
right.
I won't get into the design, but I know it'd be like a game changer.
Yeah, I love wheels. I've never even tried to just play around designing a wheel. I don't know why, but
something fascinating about it, man. It's just I've always loved wheels.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is like one thing you have to promise me is if you start making your own wheels. Well, would you do it under the JC Customs name, or you come up with like a different brand? Or what?
It would probably be a sub company of JC Customs.
And you've got good style, so I'm sure it won't be a problem.
No.
But I see all these guys come out with wheels.
Oh, no.
And their font on their wheel looks like Arial.
Yeah.
You know, like I just saw one, and I think they're called VFC, and they specialize in like, we'll take any wheel and make it a beadlock. It's like, that's not a good thing. Like that's not, and they just did a set of stock 2024 Dark Horse wheels, which is just like a FR 500 looking kind of, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And, you know, they slap a beadlock on it. Yeah. And first off, I didn't like it. Period. I didn't like the beadlock design. But the worst part is there's a little pocket in it and it says VFC. And it's like, I want to respond like, dude,
take that
give
out.
me $10 and I'll pick a font out for you other than Arial.
Yeah.
Like it just looks so bad.
You see my engravings that I do on everything.
No, it's awesome. You know,
it's like even the big names, there's just a stencil ball and mill, no flare. Like, dude, you're making $10,000 wheels here. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Well, that's what I'm getting at. I think you got a lot of style, and you got all these guys out there that are selling shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I know, because I see the market, and I'm like, dude, I could totally make an impact on this little part of the market.
And, you know, for a real long time, a lot of the wheels all look the same. And people are getting a little bit more creative with like their own versions of wheels. But
a lot of people
sometimes
like
that's
bad. Aero design.
Yeah. The recent one I saw that I was unsure of is like they like shrunk the ring down. Like it's basically like the wheel center, and then there's little connectors to the actual wheel. You know what I mean? Like there's like a second circle inside the circle, and then the spokes in it. Okay. And then just between that inner circle and outer circle, there's just little bars.
Okay.
But that's like this connection of the inner circle to the outer circle.
It's like a Pontiac wheel.
I'm fucking car retarded when it comes to anything but Fords. I don't know, but I think it is a throwback wheel.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and the connection between the two, it's like at a angle. Like it's not even like straight.
Looks like a jet turbine kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. And in my head, I'm like, dude, did they test that? Like, like how
strong is that?
How strong is that good? And it was for an Explorer ST. You know, so it's not even it's a little bit heavier.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff just intrigues me because, you know, and it doesn't have to do with just wheels. Whenever I see anything, I'm like, I understand that engineers know the, you know, math to figure out loads and, you know, how much yield it has and all that crap. But
I've made that mistake though before, so I'm really hesitant. Like I designed a pulley, and I just was like in my head, I just like, light is faster, so I made it too thin, and it just ended up breaking.
Yeah.
So I've always been kind of nervous. I'm like, I got to over-engineer it a little bit, but I don't want to over-engineer it to where it looks so freaking stupid either. You know,
or it's too heavy when you're talking about something that's a wheel.
Yeah.
You know.
So everybody that's in the wheel game, like I want to pick some brains. I mean, even though they'll be like, oh, he's competition, but I mean, really, at the end of the day, I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but it might bother them. But like, you know, what is the due diligence before going to market to the masses? Like, I mean, I understand testing everything on my own stuff, but you know, like,
I mean, when you're talking about a drag racing wheel, you know, at a certain point, you'd want them to be SFI approved, depending on who you're selling them to. So they take care of that, right? Because they'll test it.
I was just gonna say
to get the sticker, and that's what the other company that I spoke about didn't do. Their wheels were not SFI approved, and that brought out
like even you know, getting SFI approved. I have this idea. it's already been done, but like carbon fiber wheels, like I want to make a 3-piece carbon fiber wheel, and I feel like it would be a real good drag wheel, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen those. I see them a lot. Obviously, we got OEM like fully carbon wheels, but a Forge Line and I think a couple other ones. I can't remember the name of them. They're popular. I've seen them on Vipers and a couple other where they're carbon barrels. And then
I actually helped a guy make some dies for some carbon barrels. He's out in Washington. I can't remember the name he does all carbon fiber work, but I had to make some aluminum dies so he could wrap the carbon around it to make the barrels.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting. Yeah. I love carbon fiber, as you probably know.
Yeah. And I'm a big carbon fiber fan.
That's a fully carbon fiber intake. I didn't make it, of course, but I saw the video of them making that, and they got a huge autoclave, and I just was like, after I saw that, I was like, what else can you make for me in carbon fiber? Yeah, like we can make anything you want if you think you can sell it. So they're working on a GT500 lid.
Oh, nice,
right now.
Dude.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. Only because somebody else posted a picture of one, which brought it back up in my mind, and I just didn't really like the look of it. It was just. It looked like I made it, kind of. Not throwing any shade, but it wasn't bad. Yeah. But there was it was just a lid, like like that lid over there. It's got some ribs in it, some style to it, and this was just like boop boop, and it was it was like a dry.
Oh, you know what? I know what the one you're talking of now.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's like a dry carbon, which dry carbon has its place, but I think in that case you need gloss. Yeah, like it needs to be gloss, and
it's all 100%. It needs
to look like jewelry.
Yeah,
and
give it some style, man.
Yeah, and that's why I had talked about it before, and then they hit me up and they're like, what else can we make? What should we concentrate on? And I was like, you need to make a supercharger lid. And I showed them that one and some of the other ones on the market. And it's not that complicated of a piece to make. And I'm like, I think that's a home run. But and that's something that those sorts of things, obviously, we don't make that with you, and that's mostly because the person that I make that with, they designed it.
Right.
So I stick with them.
It's their deal.
It's their deal. And I would never do that to them, just like you wouldn't do that. But, you've got the Raptor R, you got all kinds of stuff. So that's something else that that you may want to look into, because there's lots of competition. That company that came out with the carbon fiber one, they just came out with a cast version of that, and it's, selling quite a bit, and so there's just endless amounts of little things that you can do. Yeah. That's not a little thing. It's a pretty big piece, but it's not that difficult. Like if you had to, obviously
it's the time though,
that would be way easier to make than say like an intake manifold.
For instance. 100%.
Yeah.
So that's a problem I always run into. Like I have this idea and it sits on the back burner because I'm so damn busy with what I have now, and someone else comes out with it and I'm like, shit, missed that one.
Well, that's what happened with the cast lid.
Yeah.
I spoke to you about that a year ago, probably.
Yeah.
I said, hey man, I really need to take my billet lid and make a cast version of it. And then mostly it was budget. I just didn't really have the extra. It's expensive when you get into that. I was going to ask you to help design it and then make sure it was ready for casting. And then the other people came out with it. Although I think there's room
for improvement. There usually is.
On looks, at least.
Yeah.
It looks.
Bobo.
Yeah. Same as the car. All right, I won't go down that path. All right, so anyway,
that's a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's Joel Charles about outside of machining. I mean, obviously, when people like you, it kind of consumes your life, but there's got to be some other things.
So when I'm not machining, I'm machining.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I enjoy time with my dogs, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. You just said you got a couple new puppies.
Yeah. Some cane corsos.
They're like 8 months old now, you said?
Yep. The Rocco and Roxy. Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, those dogs. I mean, are they considered, obviously, it's just like, we got Simon here, Mr. Vicious Pit Bull, that you probably kick him in the face and he's not even going to move. So it just depends on how you bring them up somewhat, but they're kind of considered dangerous dogs.
Right.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to be like.
Actually, the female.
Is this your first cane corsos?
No. We had one a long time ago. Her name was Tonka. She was a fantastic dog. Yeah. I loved her.
Real loyal, loving type dogs. Super loyal,
super fun to play with too. She was crazy. She was so smart. So like I'd be on my bed at night, and she would run from the front door to my bed, and we'd have this game where I just push her off the bed. I just keep pushing her off, and she would actually change her tactics, trying to get onto the bed.
That's
like
awesome.
she would just kept getting lower and lower, and I just could not stop laughing. She would beat me, and I'm like, holy cow, this dog too freaking smart.
How big do the males get usually?
So Rocco, he's like $120, $110 now.
It's not even a year yet.
No.
How big will they get? Is that about it?
I don't even know, dude.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about getting a dog that weighs as much as me.
Yeah, but before these dogs, we had a Great Dane.
Oh wow! So you downsized.
Yeah,
at least in height.
he was a Harlequin Great Dane. Yeah, he was taller than me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was huge. He was a great dog. He actually lasted a few years longer than we expected him to. Usually they don't last that long. So we got 12 years out of him.
Wow. Yeah, that's the worst part about dogs, man. Chances are you're going to outlive them. Like, I got Willow over here who's probably 12 or 13, and every day I'm like,
we have this lab. Her name's Denali, and she's still kicking. I don't know how she's still alive.
Yeah.
She's fat and bumpy, but she's still alive. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, they're your kids, right? You don't have kids?
No kids. Yeah. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. We actually adopted kids. We adopted a pair of sisters, and we got them when they were much older, 14 and 16. So we didn't have them very long. They're adults now. And actually, I'm a grandpa.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You guys stay in touch?
Yeah.
Everything's good?
Yeah, they're local. Everything's good. Yeah.
How was that experience? That's interesting. I don't know anybody that's adopted anybody, especially at an older age. That takes a special person, I think.
Yeah. So,
what made you decide to do that?
Well, we wanted kids. It just never happened. So, we decided to adopt and just see what it was about. And we did it through the church and DCF, DCFS, or whatever it's called. And we found these two girls. They're great girls, and actually adopted them. And they were obviously older, like I said. So wanted to give them a chance. My wife's a high school teacher, so she's got a bleeding heart for teenage kids.
Gotcha.
And
you said they were sisters?
Yeah, they're sisters. And we adopted them, and it was actually pretty good. And then the oldest one, they're all in their 20s now, but she just had a baby boy. So
your grandpa.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm probably the world's youngest grandpa.
How old are you?
38.
38? Man.
Yeah, even though I look like I'm 50.
You make me feel old.
Yeah.
I just turned 50, so I'm grandpa.
You look better than I do, though.
Nah, I don't think so.
Everybody's like, oh, you're 38? I'm like, yeah. They're like, for real, how old are you? Yeah.
That's because you're wise, man. That's
I guess so.
They see that. So
that's funny. Yeah, but dogs and then horses. Got a few horses.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
where do you ride them?
I do not ride them. It's my wife.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she deals with all that crap. I don't know. We just have horses.
You keep them out there on the same property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess I always go directly to the machine shop.
Yeah, they're behind the house.
Oh, okay.
On the other side, yeah. No one really ever goes over there. But yeah, we got the horses.
You live out in the country, I guess you'd call it. At least for around here, it's the country.
The country.
It's like a neighborhood, but it's...
Yeah, it's like an equestrian neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the lots are pretty good size. So we have a house, and then I have a detached shop, and then a horse barn.
And does she just like go somewhere special ride them, or do you take them right out of the house?
Right out of the house and goes down the road. There's a canal bank she goes, and one of the horses, his name's Thunder, and he's the next racehorse, and she just lets him go down the canal bank, just wide open.
That's super cool. I haven't been around horses much. When I was younger, we used to go to a dude ranch with my aunt used to take me and my cousin and everybody to the dude ranch, and we'd ride, we're from New York City, go to the dude ranch and go riding horses. But usually it was just like, putting around at like 1 mile an hour.
Yeah.
So, so you said the Lightning, it's getting close to done. Is the motor done, or what exactly, where does that project stand? Like, when are we going to see it out on the road on Facebook?
Yeah, man. So it's been a ride with this truck trying to get it done. I won't get into the details of that because I don't want to bash anybody. But Garrett has it now at Gap Performance, and he's doing a phenomenal job. The motor's done. I got a built transmission from A1 Transmissions in Georgia, and things should be badass. And Garrett has a truck now.
Where's he located at? I've been to his house because we picked him up for a Pantera concert
Yeah,
once.
he told me he went to. His new shop is in Pompano. You know where the Goodyear blimp is?
Yeah.
Station. He's just right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice,
So he's just down the road from where the Goodyear blimp is, and so it's kind of snowballed. My frame, everything is getting powder coated.
The frame is?
Yeah. So we're just doing a
Damn,
frame off.
You're going all out.
So it's gonna be everything black, black nasty. So the frame's getting black. Rear end's gonna get painted. Everything's gonna be nice and clean. Yeah.
Is that something that you'll take to like car shows too and show off?
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, it's good for the business.
Yeah.
Since everything, you sell a lot of dress up stuff too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And he wants to get me and Garrett doing a lot of cross promotion with each other's businesses. So I'm gonna start doing some YouTube shoots and the whole video of building the truck and everything, and
awesome.
Get him some exposure because he really is legit. Like he's badass.
Yeah,
I know
like
he's
him,
talked to you a little bit.
Yeah, him and Kobe are closer.
Uh-huh.
But we went to the Pantera concert and I hung out with him. What the hell was it? We went to see some cover band. Shit, who was it? I can't remember. We went to see some cover band at some brewery like a couple weeks ago, and he was there. But him and Kobe talk a little bit more than me and him, but he seems like a really smart dude and real motivated.
Oh yeah.
Kobe loves him. So
he was telling me the deal he wants to get set up with you, tuning in the trucks that he builds. And I think it's actually a great deal for both of you.
Yeah. People,
because you'll get a truck that's like 99% ready to go and you just need to do the tuning.
Right.
And if there's any issues, he'll fix it right away.
And I love those sorts of relationships. I still, it's been a real long time since I've seen a Lightning come through here, but I still see 03 Cobra. I did one last week.
Yeah.
And it was like super nice.
Yeah.
And they're not always super nice.
Yeah.
But I would love to do more and more Lightnings, especially the older, further away you get from them, they just become that much more cooler because they're almost
100%
like
it's nostalgia, man.
A vintage car. So what kind of time frame are you thinking on the truck this year?
Yeah, definitely this year.
It's been a 5-year
project.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It sucks. And like I said, I know you probably don't want to go over the details, but it took that long because of the struggles with dealing with aftermarket companies, right?
Yeah, it's other
and
people,
suppliers and all that stuff.
Yeah, trying to deal with other people. So it's a little bit out of my scope actually, as far as like performance wise. Mm-hmm. And that's why I kind of wanted to give it to somebody else to do it right. And I thought I had the right people, but it just didn't work out until I found Garrett. So,
what's Garrett's background? Has he had a Lightning for a long time? Is that how he got into it?
I think he's an OG, man. Ever since they came out, he's had one.
Okay.
Have you seen his Gen 3 swap Lightning?
You did the valve coverage for it, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I saw the engine on the engine stand, and that's kind of how he got onto my radar because Kobe mentioned that, and I said, well, our guy Joel makes those valve covers. He's like, oh, like he didn't know that because he was showing me the valve covers. He's like, dude, check these valve covers out. I go, dude, I got the same valve covers on my Gen 1.
Baby?
Yeah, they're a little different on the Gen 1, a little easier probably to make, but those never actually made it on the car, but they're going to be on the car this next go around because you had made them for me, and then I had to take the turbos off to be able to fit them, and then I fucked the car up, and it's been being redone since. But that's not for anybody's fault but my own.
Garrett's truck with that Gen 3 10R80, holy cow.
And it's running already?
Yeah, he's got it running. I don't know if it needs a final tune or whatever, but we went out for a little spin. It's on my, actually, I don't know. I think I put it on my Instagram page. But dude, that thing is nuts.
So it has a 10-speed in it?
I think so, yeah.
So he's running it off like a swap computer type of setup or something?
Yeah, he's got all sorts of fancy gadgets in there. It's way over my head.
I don't know if you saw that F-150 that I posted earlier
Godzilla.
Today. Yeah, I'll show it to you after here. It's got some cool wheels on it. Yeah, I think they're like Forge lines or something, but they look like steelies.
Those are the next set of valve covers I need to do is Godzilla ones.
Yeah, dude,
100%.
Those will be a little easier too, I would think.
Yeah. Actually, I'm working on I wanted to pick your brain. I got that 55 Bel Air that I'm doing. It's a 408 cubic inch LS with a 671 Roots blower.
Oh, wow.
And I'm making my own fuel injection for the top. I'm going to have all the injectors inside with stacks sticking up.
Okay.
My head, I want carbon fiber stacks, all different lengths. You know how they did the old school hot rods.
Right.
But electronic fuel injection. So I don't know if that's something that you'd be interested in doing.
Sure. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anything different is always fun. It just, that's what lights my fire. You know, I love tuning GT 500s with Whipples on them and all that over and over and over again, because it's fun to be able to do something with authority, I guess I'd say. Like, I know your shit's going to run right because I've done this a million times. I know what it's, but then I also like it when something a little off beat comes in and different, because it's like, ooh, this might be a challenge, you know? So
it's a LS base. So I'm starting to do a lot of LS stuff now for it. I want to do a dry sump and the fuel injection, like I said, old school roots blower going on it. So there's a lot of new and old school, because it's 55. It's bagged, bodied, and blown. It's kind of the name of it. What transmission you running, something like that? So I wanted like a 60/60 with a sequential shifter, but I'm not really sure.
So a manual.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm not really sure yet. A lot of people are like, no, stick with the automatic, because I just want to do burnouts. Yeah. Like, that's what I want to do with it. I want to take it to that burnout war thing that they do, like the Aussies do. But
it's like a series now.
Dude.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I want to get into it. Yeah. I saw this dude, Model A Shane. He had a blown Model A out there, and he's just roasting the shit. And I'm like, dude, I should turn my Bel Air into this.
That must be so much fun, dude. Like,
I can't wait.
Especially Aussie style, you know. We're used to like the standing still burnouts. Now all of a sudden you're doing donuts.
Yep. I want to do that entrance and come in flying and tire shreds going everywhere.
What kind of shape is that car in?
It's a rat rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you're all right. A little dent here and there, man.
It's got a 9-inch in it. It's all gutted. It's on airbags now. It's bodied, so the rocker, the door sitting on the ground. It's got 20s steel wheels on it. But I'm more thinking gear it towards doing the burnouts. Put some coilovers on it or something.
Don't you have a old school truck too?
I actually sold that one.
Oh, you did?
It has a 47 with a straight 8.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 1947 straight 8, rat rod style. His airbags laid out. Had my logo on the door. Yeah, that's long gone now.
Yeah.
But I got another project is I got rid of the Gen 1 too. That was a nice truck. Redid everything on that one. That one I sold that one. And the C10. I got a C10 too that I'm building.
Wow, where you keep all these? On the farm?
Yeah. I got a storage container. It's all full of shit.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So, you know, I know you said you saw yourself further along with the business, but where do you see yourself, you know, in 5 to 10 years with this setup? Are you, obviously we talked about the wheel thing.
Yeah.
Is this something that you would continue to do at your current location, or, you know?
Yeah, I'm pretty much maxed out at where I'm at. That's outgrown. I don't really know. I mean, obviously I like how I have it set up now. And if I was to get a bigger spot with a bigger shop, I'd probably jump on it, which I am looking. Actually, I want to move more to the country. I don't like living in the city. So get a bigger shop, get a few more newer machines, because I'm at the point now where I could afford some like latest and greatest 24, 25, you know, machines the year. So, and maybe possibly some multi-axis stuff.
Now,
as far as like growing and getting people, I'd like to still have the one guy I can take under my wing and bring him up. But until I find that guy, I'll probably just stay the way I am.
And you seem like a real independent type of person. Have you ever considered not being a one-man show as far as the business goes, meaning like taking on a partner or investor or anything like that?
Yeah.
Is that something you've considered?
I would consider it. I bring a lot to the table, so it'd have to be something considerable for me to even consider bringing somebody on, but I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, there's lots of people out there that would, for instance, love to have a badass machine shop.
Sure.
But they have the funds, but they don't have somebody like you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, you know, and that's one thing.
I've been approached by several. I mean, we live in Palm Beach County. So, dude, like all these millionaires are getting hit up every day.
Yeah.
And it's just, they bring nothing to the table. Like, I want somebody who brings more than just money to the table. I don't necessarily need the money. It's just bring something else to the table. Like, great, you're rich. I don't care.
Right. Yeah. And that, you know,
because then I just feel like they'll end up owning me. Like,
and that's a problem in this business, right? Yeah. A huge problem. Private equity and taking over companies that really, they fuck them up.
Yeah.
And even not private equity so much as just, I call it rich guy race shops. They never last. Never.
I've had multiple. That's something else, man. I want to have longevity.
Yeah, I've had multiple people in those situations. I was in that situation. My first company, I got bought out. I kept part of the company, but I was not majority owner, and it was a Ford dealership guy that owned multiple dealerships. And it went from like, oh, we're going to take over the world and all this. And then once things started moving, he didn't want to spend the money, you know, that he said that's the only reason he was part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, hey man, you know, if we spend this kind of money, we can go buy a bunch of these parts in bulk instead of nickel and diamond things and make more money in the end.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. But then at the end of the month, when we lost 10 grand for the month, he had no problem writing a $10,000 check to cover the bills. And it was just like, I'm like, this is never going to go anywhere.
No.
You know, and that's how I wound up in Florida. That was right before here. And I was like, this is going nowhere. I got offered a very good job at Diablo Sport and moved here. And I've seen that happen to multiple people throughout the years. They come to me and like, oh man, this guy wants to invest all this money and this and that. I'm like, oh dude, gotta understand, you know, these people are dreamers. They have money, so they obviously have done something right, but they see it going a certain way and it's never going to go that way. You, even if it was your money and you saw it going a certain way, it's not going to, nothing ever goes exactly as planned.
Yeah.
But the problem with money guys is it's much easier for them to just go, that didn't work.
Exactly.
And close it down.
And then you're left holding the bag, you know?
Where it's your passion.
This is my livelihood.
Right. It's your livelihood and your passion.
Yeah.
It's not just your livelihood. It's also what you chose to do.
Yeah.
This guy's not choosing to be a machine shop owner.
They're
He's
just $10 bills.
Yeah. Like, oh yeah, like, you know, to do the math real quick. And it's like, oh, that's a good
I've been approached
deal.
by plenty of them. If it'd have to be the right guy.
Yeah. I guess
Or
the
the right
only
deal.
reason I would like to see you do that is because of not having your hands tied as much, you know, to where the problem is it's the chicken and the egg thing when it comes to this kind of business, right? Especially your business, because like my business, the most expensive piece of equipment I have here is the Dyno, which it doesn't even cover probably your most expensive machine, and you have multiple machines. It's not even close to probably your most expensive machine, or not even in the friggin' same planet as what you want to buy, like a $500,000 machine. It's like, I have no machinery that costs, you know, if I bought a hub dyno, it'd be like 70 grand, and that would be like, oh my God, you know,
that's mid-grade in my,
right.
my
Exactly.
field.
So you have a huge overhead in that business compared to a lot of businesses. And then, you know, this is a good topic from owning a business, I guess, is do you go after the young, hungry guy that doesn't know much, but he's smart and motivated and you can teach him, which is how I tend to go, at least think it should go, or do you go after the guy that's already qualified and get him in there? You know, like somebody who is already successful.
It's a catch-22.
But the problem is that takes a lot of money.
Yes.
You know, and that's basically, you know, I just wrapped up two big things that are big money, right? So like right now, I would assume you can't go out and spend 6 figures to hire some dude.
No.
So you got to get a younger guy that's hungry and hopefully you can bring him up, but that doesn't always work out right. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. It's like,
well, I've tried it a handful of times, bringing somebody up from nothing.
Right.
And it just hasn't worked out. And if it would have to be the right guy,
right.
Somebody that actually, they all want to be there, but they'd have to want to be there. They need to want it like I wanted it. Like that's all I wanted to do.
What I found out is a lot of them want the end result.
Yes.
But without everything that it takes to get
don't do
there.
the work.
Yeah, they're like, you know.
That's all the damn kids nowadays, man. They just don't get it.
Yeah, and the problem is they think they're going to work hard.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they don't understand what hard work is they go from, you know, like I've been in a situation where I've heard people go, oh, I'll do whatever it takes to get the job. I'll sweep the floors. Blah, blah, blah. I just want an opportunity. And 3 months in, they're like, that's not my job.
Yeah.
I didn't get hired to do that. It's
bro, I own my own shop. I'm still sweeping my own floors.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like
it never stops. Dude.
You know, people go, what are you doing washing that car? Do you own this place? I go, because I'll do anything here that I ask any of my employees to. In fact, half the time, I don't want to ask my employees to wash a car. They have more important shit to do.
Yeah.
If the car's got to get, I'll wash it.
Same mindset I have. Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem is, you know, the younger generation isn't always that way. I mean, I've got an awesome guy. I don't know exactly how old he is. I suck at that, but he's only like 24 and he's like 40-year-old as far as the mentality. But
that's rare, man.
And I've asked him a million times. I said, bro, you got to have some friends that are your way. He's like, nah, man.
Yeah.
He's like, I wouldn't hire anybody that I'm friends with.
Yeah.
You know, because I need another mechanic.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to find that guy.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I wish I could find that one guy, man. I'd be all over it.
Yeah. So guess what I'm getting at is have you considered that component of it as far as bringing on a money guy only for that reason, right? The only thing they could bring to the table is you can have a facility, have the machinery that you want and the staff that you need, because I feel like and it's risky, right? It's a risky proposition to go down that road, because if it doesn't work,
I'm left holding the bag, and I spent all this money.
All the years that you made up to that point, that's not going to matter, because everything's going to collapse around you, right? Because the bigger you build it, it works great if it works out. Yeah. But if not, it could just completely ruin you.
Oh yeah.
You know, so
I feel like if I did it now and it didn't work out, I wouldn't last very long after that. Yeah. Because I put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been the other part of what I have to do too, is I take on my own products. I make other people's products. I do job shop stuff, one-off stuff, whatever. I kind of have my hands in different areas, because when one area slows down, another one picks up. But ultimately, I'd like to just make my own products and make them at a fast pace and bring them to market super fast with super high qualities and great prices. Like that's just where my mind always goes. And if I was to invest all this money into the perfect guy and he just bails, I've wasted all that money. I've wasted all that time. And that's just not a luxury that I have, and I'd be out of business. Yeah. Versus getting a guy that I bring up, and which in my short period of owning my own business, they just bail because their work ethic sucks, or they're not getting paid what they thought they'd get paid, or it's not exactly what they thought it was going to be. And it's just a constant struggle. So
I know some performance machine shops go down this road. Have you ever considered doing other than performance just to keep a constant flow of work, like medical, aerospace, stuff like that? Or
I don't really want to get into that stuff because there's a lot of paperwork involved, and it's super expensive to even get your licenses and stuff. And plus, I don't have the facility for it. You know, really, I'd have to have a remote location is what they'd want to see. Not something that like I have set up now. Right. So it'd just be a big undertaking. But also what, to get back to your other point, is partnering up with maybe an existing business that would, it maybe is facing similar challenges that I am. And like, man, I just wish we had somebody who's like-minded and we could partner up. I mean, not opposed to it. Right. Something like along those lines too.
Yeah. I wish I had a bunch more money, man. Maybe we could work something out. I would love to be involved in something like that, because I love tuning, but I think I'm more mechanically inclined. We're tuning, it's mechanical. I mean, you're working on cars, but not really. It's more math and stuff like that. And I like, I grew up, my dad wasn't a hardcore performance guy, but he was like not a engineer, but he was like a machinist. Right. Like self-taught. He worked for Procter and Gamble. Oh, cool. And he designed some anti-foaming nozzle for orange juice. And, he's got, I don't know if they put his name on the patent. I think he kind of got screwed on that. But
that's messed up, man. Yeah. But,
to him, it didn't matter. I mean, dude, he never graduated high school, grew up, just like a normal, it wasn't super poor, but, didn't have the education, worked at like a paint factory for years, and then wound up getting the job at Procter and Gamble. And he's the type of guy,
but he's got that mindset.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he could sit down and draw shit that looked like a legit drawing. Wow. Like when I was younger, it'd be like, "Hey, Dad, can we make this table or whatever?" And he'd sit down and draw it but he had a carpentry background. He's Norwegian, and his whole family were carpenters. So like, he was a good machinist, but he was even better with wood. He had our entire basement was a wood shop. That's and, awesome. He'd make cradles for the grandchildren and all that stuff. And I did that stuff when I was younger with him. I never did that stuff as an adult, but I always, and that's why I like doing things like 3D printing or designing what I can. Yeah. And
just creating something.
Yeah. And I think that's what, I don't know if it's because things have gotten so much easier for people. I think a lot of that's gone. I mean, there's still a lot of artists because it's almost like the art mentality, right? Yeah. You're combining math and science, but with art, to a certain extent.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I can't stand is when somebody designs a part, and I'm like, dude, did you look at it? Like, I mean, I get it works, but
give
like
it some soul.
Put
dude.
like a chamfer somewhere. It's like a big block of stuff, whatever, with a couple of holes in it. I'm like, dude, that could
I
look
like
so
to
much
put my
better.
personality into everything I design. You know, give it some soul, some character.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So that, you know, I love doing that kind of stuff, and you know, who knows? Maybe down the road we can work more together on that stuff. But I love that. I mean, I've always thought about it. You know, not that I would want to go into that business myself, but I know at one point I just wanted to learn how to design stuff in CAD, and then I was like, I ain't got time for that. Then I bought a 3D printer, and I kind of had to learn it, right? Because after you print a couple things you download off the internet, you're like, well, what am I going to make? And then you make like the littlest, tiniest bracket for something. You're like, oh, wow, that was pretty easy. That wasn't that hard. And then you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But you get to a certain point, and then I thought about it, like a few years ago, somebody said something to me like, oh, dude, you should buy a CNC. I'm like, yeah, let me just buy a CNC. You think you just take that and put it in the freaking machine and hit the button like a 3D printer? It's like, you got tool paths. You got to decide what tool. Yeah, I was like, dude, that's like 1,000 times more complicated than what I'm doing. But I would want to do that, but not me. Like, you know, like,
do you know how many people actually do that though? I've ran into so many companies.
Just like, wing it until they figure it out?
The owner's like, we bought this machine because we're going to start producing these parts, but, you know, we don't have anybody to run it. I'm like, bro, you got the best of the best, and you don't know shit about it. Like, I just don't get it. And then they just end up giving it away practically.
Yeah. Well,
I never understood that mentality.
Well, that
was like the one place I worked at, man. He's just like, oh, I bought this and this and this, and then we're going to make everything. But he's like, yeah, no, you know, my engineers, they know a little. I'm like, dude, your engineers don't know shit about how to run these machines.
That's a big problem with almost every.
They think it's so easy. And
it's like, oh, well, you know, people do that all the time with car parts. It's like, well, what'd you buy? I bought this, this, and this. Why'd you buy that? Well, that guy has it. Well, you should have asked us, because that's all wrong. You know what I mean? And it's like, people think it's like a video game, right? Like, oh, I've earned these things in my bag, so now I'm like some super badass. It's like, no, you just spent too much money on shit you didn't know what you were buying, and now we got to do it all over again. So
that's exactly what I wanted to avoid with my Lightning. That's why I wanted somebody else to do it, because I knew it was over my freaking head. And I'm like, you know, E85 pumps and blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't know, dude. Just it's over my head. I don't want to buy shit and waste money.
You're totally capable of doing it, but it's a time investment, right? Because now all of a sudden, you know, the 3D printing thing for me, like, it actually screwed up other things in my life, because I got so like focused on it and being up super late and being like, oh, that print messed up, I'm doing another print. And it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get up in the morning. You know, so
bro, when I first started the shop, the time would just go away. I'd look at my phone or something and I'm like, holy shit, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's when you know jamming out, dude.
That's when you know you're doing the right thing, though, dude. Like, you know, it's like, oh, well, obviously I love this because I can't even keep track of time when I'm doing it.
I lose track of time, dude. When I'm in my lab and I'm in the zone, man, I don't know what's ever going on. The world could be burning down. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. So, you know, with moving forward with the business, obviously from a space perspective, you're pretty much tapped out.
Yeah, I could probably do a little bit of rearranging and get one more machine in there, but I mean, I don't know if it's really worth it.
So are you happy with all the, like, would you change out anything? Or?
Yeah, I've considered selling like 2 or 3 machines just to upgrade to another one. And maybe even instead of having 4 mills, because dude, honestly, I keep them all running all day by myself, which is hard to do, but I actually enjoy doing it. So it doesn't really seem like work to me, but like most guys you work with, they can't even keep one damn machine running. Like, oh, you run 5? I'm like, yeah, dude, I run 5 all day long, pretty much. And, but I considered selling like 1 or 2 just to get something newer. Yeah. Just to have it. I don't know. I'd like to have something multi-axis, some 5-axis stuff.
How much maintenance is involved with that kind of stuff? Not the 5-axis, but what you currently have.
Maintenance. I mean, I got it down. Preventative maintenance. I got it down. Weekly's not too bad, but monthly, I don't know. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. A couple oil, add oil to it.
Like what goes wrong with them? Like you said, you bought that machine and like it kept tolerances.
Yeah.
It's like, what if it didn't?
So
what do you, is it like
there's a whole bunch of different
worn
variables.
out, like
you could
bushings,
have,
all kinds of shit like that? Or
yeah, the table guideways could be worn out. It's just the bearings could be gone. Electrical boards is the main thing. You get hit by lightning, sometimes the board fries. But I've been really, dude, those phase converters that I'm on, we've had several horrible Florida storms, and I'm like, oh shit, I just got hit. All the power went out. I'm like, I just lost everything. And they take the brunt. I've never had a single issue with my machine.
Yeah.
And usually working at other places, the board's fried and, the spindle was running at 12,000 RPM and the power shut off and the spindle's just winding down by itself without oil and the bearings burn up. Like,
so there's no like,
I never have those issues.
there's no backup power for something like that, really, right?
I mean, I guess you can get a generator, but by the time the power goes off and the generator kicks on, the machine's already off.
Yeah, there's no point in it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
If there is something, I don't know about it.
So, like, what about different materials? We haven't brought that up. Obviously, work in aluminum most of the time.
Yeah.
But are you working with anything else?
Yeah, titanium, stainless steel, plastics.
Really, you do plastic stuff?
Yeah, a lot of Delrin stuff. Make Delrin bushings all the time.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you mentioned titanium.
Yeah.
I love titanium. Who doesn't love titanium?
Yeah. I've done a lot of titanium in the medical stuff.
That seems like it'd be a little challenging to machine work, or is it about the same?
I've never really found it to be that challenging. I've actually found stainless steel to be more challenging than titanium. As long as you keep titanium flooded with coolant, and keep a constant surface speed, with cutting versus the RPM, not too high RPM, not cutting too fast. I've never really had any issues.
Can you mention any of the titanium stuff that you made? Like what applications?
There's one company that I make these titanium couplers for that they use to weld for their turbo kit. I don't exactly know what it does, but it says coupling. So I don't know. I never really actually looked at it, but I make those for them all the time.
That's awesome.
Actually, just today, another guy reached out to me, a fabrication guy. He wants some titanium flanges made for something. I don't exactly know what it is.
Very cool. Yeah. The titanium stuff is just getting more and more and more popular.
Yep.
The race car stuff, just people like the high end stuff. Like Cletus is building a new 69 Camaro like chassis car, and like half the shit in that thing is titanium. So obviously there's a lot, what the difference is between steel and titanium as far as weight? Is it about half or like roughly?
I'm not sure about steel. I know aluminum is heavier than titanium. So
but strength wise, it's way stronger.
The tensile strength, I don't know. You're catching me at a bad time. I don't know what the tensile strengths are. I know it's very strong, except I just don't know like what the values are. Yeah,
I could tell you that titanium in my practice, and it might be material issue too, is it's more brittle.
Yeah.
Then it's more likely to snap. Where steel's going to yield a little bit.
Steel will
break.
Bend more than titanium. If you try to bend titanium, it's just going to snap.
Yeah, we've had that problem with our beadlock bolts. We've got titanium beadlock bolts, and we've installed hundreds, if not thousands here, and never broken one. But the average guy doesn't understand. It's like you can't treat that like a steel bolt. If you're pulling down a beadlock ring and the bolt's crooked,
it's not going to stretch.
And you keep going, it's going to pop the head off.
Yeah, because it doesn't stretch.
No, exactly. It's strong. People are like, why did this break? It's supposed to be titanium. It's because it broke because it's titanium.
Yeah. Because
I could tell you probably torque that bolt down and this bolt's sticking out an inch still, and then everything's crooked and you got loads on stuff, and a steel bolt is just going to go no problem, and it's probably going to bend a little bit, and then you go to run it in and it's going to straighten itself out somewhat.
Yeah, it's a lot more malleable.
Yeah. So that's one thing people don't realize about titanium. It's the same way with any kind of exotic material. Carbon fiber, it's the strongest shit in the world. Well, it depends on how you're using it.
And it depends on how it's made too.
Yeah, that's a big difference,
Yeah, that goes along with titanium, how you cut it.
Yeah.
Actually, it plays a lot into how strong it's going to be in the end.
Yeah. How does that work when you're machining? I don't know if you have to deal with this or anything, but I've noticed, and I know you don't do billet engine blocks.
Not yet.
But I watched Steve Morris's video. He got his machine running.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow him at all.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and they got the block mostly cut.
Yep.
And then he sent it out for heat treat, but it wasn't done.
Yep.
So
you got to finish machine it.
So you basically get it as close as you can, then heat treat it, then finish machine it, and then you don't heat treat it again, right?
Nope.
So it's just so you know what I'm getting at? Like
it goes back to what I was saying with the material with like the plate stock. You know, you have stress induced into it. So the material in the block, he roughs it all out, gets it pretty close, and it's just moving. It's fine its natural state. Get it heat treated, it's going to move again. Then you come back and finish machine it in a free state.
Okay.
So
there's no stresses in it at that point because
you have to be careful because with your fixturing and stuff. So you could induce stress by fixturing if your clamps are clamping down too hard and you machine it, let your clamps go. It's oblong. Like there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah. That was a pretty interesting. I don't know what happened. I didn't follow it super closely, but that's the same machine Tom Bailey had, right? Do you know much about that?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, Tom Bailey is like his big time racer that he does drag week with. And I think that machine was at his place up in Michigan and had all kinds of problems with it. And then I don't know if Steve bought it from him or what, but they couldn't get it to hold tolerances or all kinds of stuff. And
I was under the assumption Steve got a brand new machine.
I don't know. We'll have to look into that. But I think this might have, it was new. Like they never got it running at Tom's place.
Oh,
and
I wonder why.
Yeah, you have to look into it because I'm curious to see what you have to say. But Tom Bailey is his name, and you can find his channel. He's like Sick Week, that race. He's the guy that does that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's like the drag week record holder, ran fives and all that. But he's not. He'll say he's not a machinist. Right. But he's got a lot of money, I think. It looks like it. And I think he just bought the baddest machine he could buy, kind of like what you said. And then they couldn't get it working. And Haas was out there constantly. And they couldn't get it right. And then I'm pretty sure that's the machine that wound up at Steve's place.
Okay.
And they're probably in business together. Maybe it's his machine. It's at Steve. I don't know. But that was their first.
But it's all about who's around you. Steve has a great group of guys around him. Yeah. That machine everything. Yeah. I mean, they're phenomenal.
Yeah. The stuff that they do is next level. I would love to see something along those lines in the coyote world. He's got the...
Man, me and Garrett actually were just talking about that, making a billet 5.4 block.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do it. I just need a machine.
Well, and the thing is once you're building billet parts, you can kind of change it.
You can make it whatever you want.
You know what I want to make?
Sky's the limit.
Big block coyote.
Bruh.
I don't know if the chains would hold up, but I'm like, dude, but by the time you make...
Yeah.
Well, I think TKM's working. I'll say it. I don't know if I should say it or not. Fuck it. I'll say it, and then if I'll ask him before I put it out. TKM's working on a set of billet coyote heads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So once you have that program, once you have everything laid out, I don't think it would be that hard to stretch it.
No.
Right? Obviously, they're building it to bolt onto current bore spacing.
Yeah.
And that's the limitation of a coyote is the bore spacing. So you open up the bore spacing, open up the bores, and keep all the architecture the same.
Yep.
It's not as easy as that, of course, but.
No. But dude, in today's world, we can make anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look at what Steve's doing with his engines. Like, dude, we could literally, the sky's the limit. The only limitation is your imagination. I've thought about, dude, I want to make engines just as bad as I want to make wheels. Yeah. Like, dude, it would be insane. Yeah. I have all these ideas of how to make it all water jacketed and
that's what I'm
streetable.
That's what would get me excited.
High horsepower.
Right? There's already a billet. There's 2 billet coyote blocks. MMR lists a water cooled block on their site, but I've never heard of anybody that has it. So does it exist or not? I don't know. It's possible, but
who's that other one? I think I've seen it at Tim's place.
AccuFab. I actually had the very first AccuFab billet block.
Oh, did you?
But I couldn't afford to build I couldn't afford any of the rest of the parts. So it was sitting there for a while, and I was like, shit, and I sold it to the owner of SPE.
Oh, okay.
But it was serial number 1. But yeah, I was planning on doing, some super crazy build with that. But then I'm like, dude, that's like 5 years off.
Yeah.
Minimum that I'm going to have the budget to do anything I need to build a block for. So I sold it. And part of me is kind of holding things out for a water solution for that. Because for me, like, will I ever own like a all out race car that you can't drive? Probably. But that doesn't get me too excited right now. I want to, like, the red car is still going to be a drag and drive car. Yeah. Like, it's going to be fast. I want to go 6s with it, but it absolutely has to drive. And will it always have a factory 6-speed tranny in it? I said it would, but I'm backtracking on that. because you don't have that. That's not a requirement to be a street car. Like something like Brett Lasala. You know, that's probably peak of a street car, and that's what I'd like to get to. Or he even doesn't call his car a street car. He's like, you call whatever you want. I go to drag and drive events. I go to drag racing events because everybody argues about street cars. Yeah, it is a street car. It's a very, very extreme street car.
Yeah.
But the fact that he won Sick Week, nobody can really throw shade at it at this point.
No way.
He kind of just set everything, the table perfectly to go, say what you want, bro, but I did
This is the bar.
Yeah. It's definitely the bar. It's a little intimidating, but I would like to try to measure up to that eventually. So you mentioned intake manifolds.
Yeah.
Do you have like some ideas that you want to try, or is it just?
No, I have tons of ideas I want to try. Equal cylinder pressure, I guess, would be my main focus.
Yeah.
You know, especially on something that's force induction.
Yeah.
You know, I have a few different ideas. I think it just goes back to basic principle, maybe ideas, but some stuff that I'd love to try. Yeah.
One thing I'd really like to try. It's not the easiest thing to pull off, and that's why you don't see it very often, but a dual runner type of deal, long, short runner with a valve in it. Because you
talked to me this years ago.
Yeah. I designed actually in CAD sliding stacks. So it's variable stacks that would bolt right into I didn't finish it. The spacing was all right. I didn't figure out how I was going to mount it. But my idea was to take like a plasma man intake or, you know, we work with TTR now, something like that, space the lid out and then put it inside to do that. And then basically, I'm not sure that I would make it variable, but I wanted to make it variable so I could test it at every quarter inch, half inch, whatever would make sense increments, and then decide. Because that's always, I think it would be a home run. Doing it in billet, it would be the hard part as far as making it super widespread, right? Like we can make it and it would work, but it would be a little expensive, I would think. Whereas,
well, it depends on who you're gearing it to. Who are you gearing it to? The masses or to the certain people that actually benefit from it?
Well, and that's a great topic, really, right? So designing products. Do you design what you love and your perfect in your mind product, or are you trying to build a product that more people need?
Yeah.
Right. So in my mind, if you asked me this question 5 or 10 years ago, it would be the best of the best material. Like it'd be like a freaking $10,000 intake or something stupid, because I'd want every single thing to be exactly how I want it.
Yeah.
But, and this may sound bad, but from a business perspective and making money, I personally would like to prototype it in billet, but figure out a way to manufacture it for the masses, right? For the guy that's buying a friggin' $2,000 Cobra Jet manifold, right? Plastic manifold that's made by Ford, but somebody's cutting it open, porting it, gluing it back together. I'm like, if that guy's paying $2,000 for that intake, what would you pay for a dual runner intake that combines every best piece of every intake and like has the huge wide power band that nobody has, all those sorts of things? But you know, I use the $2,000 Cobra Jet as an example. We couldn't do that in billet for $2,000, and make money. You know, that's way too cheap. I mean, a normal billet intake nowadays is minimum $3,000, $3,000 to $4,000. You know, that's what these go for in the Plasma Man. Deshawn's is almost $5,000, and that's just a standard intake that has no mechanics in it. There's no valves, nothing. So, you know, billet would be expensive. But I guess that's a good place to start, right?
Yep.
You know, the thing is, and that's why I kind of stopped I just let things, you know, ruminate for a while. But the guy that needs that intake is probably an NA guy, right? So now all of a sudden, is somebody going to spend $6,000-7,000 for an NA intake? Not many people, probably, right? Most people that are buying these badass billet intakes are buying them because they're super strong and they're trying to put 30-40 pounds of boost in, and they're scared that a plastic intake is going to blow up. Plastic intakes work okay, but they're not durable. But for this idea, you probably don't need a dual runner intake if you're making 1,500 horsepower, right? It's more for the NA guy. So I don't know, maybe we can play with at some point. I'd like to just do it from a prototype standpoint. Like, let's say, like, make one, It doesn't even have to drive. It just has to work on the dyno.
Well, first, before you get into selling and thinking about to the masses, you gotta, make sure the ideas sounding good.
Well, and that's why I designed those variable runners. I was like, all right,
Sounds like a good
trying
idea.
to make an entire intake, let's take an existing intake that has a short runner and then make it to where we can add to it.
Yeah.
And just play with it on the dyno.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh shit.
Yeah. That worked.
That thing makes 50 more foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 and that makes 50 more horsepower.
Yeah.
We'll just have a valve that switches between it. I mean, a variable would be cool.
Yeah.
But that's next level, I think. You've probably never seen it before, but there's an intake from, it's probably like the early 2000s, called an FR500 intake. It is a magnesium intake. And it's the same concept. In fact, I thought about trying to use one of those, but it's magnesium. So it's a little harder to cut apart and rework. But the way that one worked is it was a dual runner with butterfly valves, and it was like a dual plenum. So like, I think, kind of trying to remember, I think it fed the top plenum, and then, so it had runners that had a valve on top. That was the short runner. And then the plenum, it opened to the top. And then if these were closed, it had to go down a hole in the back and then back around to a bottom plenum. And then there was an extension to the runner. So it would feed from the bottom when it was closed and go up and make the turn. And then when the valve was open, it just bypassed the whole bottom part of the intake and went straight in the top. And, that seems like a really good design, because the problem with trying to make a dual runner intake on that, if you're doing it all on the top, it gets tall.
Yeah.
And you're like, where you put the valve, how you put it. Whereas that's using all that real estate underneath the bottom, although it makes the part more complicated, because now you've got, in a casting, it's not as bad because that was a cast magnesium intake, but
you got to be able to get to it to machine it.
Yeah. Or it wind up being, a lot of different parts all bolted together, and the more shit you have bolted together, the more chance you have of things leaking, so, but that's probably like the number one part that's like poking at me in the back of my mind. I'm like, I gotta do it. I at least want to do a prototype. So we'll try to make that happen.
Yeah, dude, I'm down.
Sometime this year, early next year. So, anything you want to cover before we finish this up?
No, man, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Dude.
You've been a great friend and resource here in Palm Beach for everybody, not just me, and the whole Coyote world, the whole Ford world. And I wish you great luck with the business in the future.
Man. Appreciate it.
All right. We're leaving that in there. We are white.
Damn white boys.